Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Rafa build that can one-shot bosses in Borderlands 4. As you can see here, we can do pretty crazy amounts of damage to the boss using a green gun and the green skill tree here. So this will stack up insane amounts of damage and just absolutely destroy the boss really quickly. And choosing one of his different class setups with the green skill tree and a bit of the blue as well. So just an overview of how this works. What we need is some form of healing through either there's a kill spring Repkit here, or you can go with the support drones on any TD or gun. Using this to proc the additional corrosive damage that is added from the altered cabron here. And if we go ahead into the blue skill tree and take the per my last, this gives you a double damage chance of 90% here. And what's crazy about that is it actually stacks infinitely here with this. Now the crazy part is it's really just these two skills here that are applying this. You can get some extra life steal, so we do have some survivability outside of using a rep kit or the support drones to be able to proc that extra damage. But yeah, that per my last is a huge boost to this. And with specific class mods, we're able to get a bunch of health regeneration here. And what's funny, this is actually only active while we do have our overdrive benefits up. So this is a class, this is a setup that actually really benefits from the dancer class mod. All right, so I'm starting off with level 1 here. Now, the Midnight Oil is great because action skills will deal bonus corrosive damage per stack of Midnight Oil. Rafa gains Midnight Oil per second as action skill is active, losing all. So you do get increased damage as long as it's up. And this gives us a 40% bonus corrosive damage if we get the 10 stacks up. So this is really nice. Now, once we get down here, we're going to obviously be taking the Altered Cabron here. So whenever we kill an enemy with the, our arc knives are active, we restore a portion of our health. And on top of this, we'll also be getting additional corrosive damage whenever we are healed. And this is easily proccable with a bunch of different gears I mentioned earlier, but I'll be showing off more in this video. You'll also get increased movement speed, and it's great because we're going to be going around meleeing enemies. Now, we typically want to be taking out the mobs as much as possible when utilizing this, especially early game, because this is going to be what stacks up this ability here. And again, this is only active while our overdrive is active, so that's 12 seconds there, just a heads up. Now next, we're going to take dial in here. So whenever we deal an enemy, damage with a melee attack, we get critical hit chance, and this will stack up. And all stacks are moved whenever we critically hit an enemy, so that can give us upwards of 100% critical hit chance when we get those 5 stacks. So just keep meleeing, you're going to get an automatic critical hit. It's fantastic. And then with Assault Art here, where our melee critical hits will restore our health. So you can take higher stacks of this, but I think it's best to leave it just at 1 here because you're going to get infinite amounts of procs of this, so you basically get infinite amounts of healing through that. At this point, I honestly think it's best just to continue onwards into the blue skill tree, as we want to get down here to per my last, so that will proc infinitely there. Now, our first few points, so we're melee focused. This regenerates ammo, this increases our reload speed, and this is going to increase our fire rate. I personally, if you're going to be using an offhand weapon, like if you're going to use something like the hot slugger, it's good to go with the increased reload speed there, or go with the increased fire rate if you're going to be using anything else. I'm going to be using the hot slugger as kind of a secondary, just as a backup when you don't have your action skill, just for a bit of range damage, because it's also a fun weapon to use. Because you can go with something like the Preparado, which will give you additional action skill cooldown rate, but we can actually get this back really quickly, so it's not really necessary. And for that, the Podendro here is nice, because this will give us health restoration whenever we get our action skill active. We do get a lot of life steal, so again, it's not fully necessary. And this one can give us Ordnance cooldown rate, increased speed for that, which is also okay, but I actually think that it's best to go with either the Preparado there or the Podendro. And this is actually probably a little bit better because we do want a bit of extra life restoration, as we may get low health trying to get into melee range. So again, I like the Preparado there pretty well, but this one just ends up being a little bit better. Now, I really like the first impression. You're getting increased gun damage on our fully reloaded magazine. Again, if you got that increased reload speed with the hot slugger, this is a really good combination. El Centro is not really that great, and honestly, none of these really suit this build very well, so you can take what you like here. I'm going to be using this for offhand weapon with the hot slugger, but you got your own personal preferences. Now, once we get down here, the Jacques, honestly, when you go to the blue skill tree, if you're going to Project Oregon, or even just going, again, to the per my last, it's probably best to go with the Jacques here, so whenever we damage an enemy with a skill, we get a stack of Jacques. For every stack, we get increased overdrive bonuses, and when the overdrive ends, we lose all stacks, which means we get increased damage and movement speed, as those are overdrive benefits there. And this also procs in some other stuff too, as we want to get the mat there. Now, the mate, I should say. So we'll go with both of these here, as this is just going to give us basically, whenever our overdrive ends, convert all Jacques stats into mate stats and gain increased action skill cooldown rate for every stack of mate. And once the action skill is ready, I'll lose all the stacks of that. Now, again, it's kind of similar to this. We aren't really benefiting much from reload speed or fire rate there, so we just want these two here just for the benefits they bring. Now, per my last, this is really the big thing here. So you can see there, you get the double damage chance 30%. This is a 30% chance, but we do get this much higher as well. Whenever we deal action skill to an enemy, this is basically our knives there, but this gives us a double damage chance that then procs infinitely here with the bonus damage from Altered Cabron. You can take a few points over here to give yourself the additional shock chance and then go with the Alcatrin. but it's probably best. The red skill tree is by far his best, I'd say. Getting the extra gun damage from CTR is pretty nice here. Where he can get the Shieldus Barrius there. I just think the best gun is to get the gun damage, but we really just want to get down here as critical hits will give us action skill duration restored, so we can stay on our action skill almost infinitely. So that's why I didn't really want to put more points into the life steal here, because it's actually a little bit better just to get this here. This is one of the best abilities. It keeps you in your Peacebreaker cannons if you're using the red skill tree, but it applies here to our green skill tree very well too. Now, the Dancer class mod really works well here because we need to have that Alter Cabron, which is a overdrive skill. So we need to have this one active here. With this, really the skill rolls aren't going to be super important here. The 4 skills that it will roll with here are the Sustainable Energy, which will give us health restoration based on how much overdrive time is remaining here. So this can give you some max health per second, which is pretty okay. Into the red skill tree, it is giving us the Temerario there, which will give us increased gun damage per stack. Doesn't really apply to us here. And then this one can give us the double overdrive bonuses whenever you get a kill skill. So that's actually really nice. If you can get your class mod to at least have that, you're going to be set. And then you can also get the Thrill for increased fire rate, but that's really not that great. I prefer going with that red skill trees choices there. Into our shields, we really want to get something that's going to give us like the Watts for Dinner there. This one has increased capacity. It's better to get one that can absorb shield. So if you get that one, it's going to be a little better. I really like the Watts for Dinner for the extra shock damage that it can provide, which is actually going to stack up onto our extra damage as well. You could also get by with using Timekeeper's New Shield due to the fact that we got Life Steal that's actually very strong on critical hits, and that just makes sure that every 5th hit we're going to get our health back. So we're pretty tanky when utilizing that, but I do think that it's best to go with something like the Watts for Dinner, or even the Protean Cell to get the 40% bonus shock damage. Now, for enhancements, this is a tricky one because we really want to get our melee damage, but it doesn't really matter too much about melee damage since we're going to end up doing max amounts of damage. So for this, it's really personal preference. I'm sure there's a better enhancement out there, but it's impossible to farm these things. So I always like the backup plan with Dataless License Park, regenerate ammo while it's equipped. Something like the bod can be really good with that. Bod's just great on every class, so anything that's going to enhance that. Gun damage boosts are 5 times applied to that. But gun damage can also be added to our melee attacks here too. So anything that does give gun damage will impact our melees. For ordnances, I still think the critical hit knife is a good one. This will get updated in the future to give a plus 30% chance to critical hit instead of locking you in at 30%. There's a lot of other ordnance out there, but I mean, critical hit knife still doing numbers. Now, as mentioned, Kill Spring's really great. And what's funny is you can actually hit people with Splats Novas here, so this can actually proc the damage of our skill. We can use this while our interaction skill as well, but the reason we want the Kill Spring is on kill, converts 100% of any excess damage into healing orbs that'll seek out allies. Now, this will actually apply to ourselves so that we can continually, once we take out an enemy, get our bonus damages and then also get our healing back, which is going to apply the Alter Cabron. It's pretty crazy here. So you can also use a triple bypass if you wanted to, especially with like something like the Leech, which gives you a pretty big tankiness. There's one still increase your melee damage, but again, that's not something we really need. I like the triple bypass with Leech because if you're taking a lot of enemies, this does have a chance to replenish itself on kill, so you can keep healing yourself, but obviously the kill spring's going to be a little bit better here. And for weapons, it's really, you can use a green weapon here and be really well off. You can only find the support drones, and trust me, these are so painful to find. You can only find them on TDR guns, so that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking through vending machines, if you see the little purple square there, look for these. There's attack drones and support drones. We need the support drone because it's going to heal us per second, which can stack up that damage really fast. Now, as mentioned, I really like the Hot Slugger on anyone, but the blue skill tree in particular, since we're going down into it, it does have some buffs to make this a little bit more powerful. The bod works really great on anyone, and this is just a default pick for just anything, really. It's great. And I also like the TK's Wave just for increased huge damage from this gun, and also the critical hits can chain around multiple enemies. You can also use, obviously, the Wombo combo is great for vile enemies if you need a counter for that. Just be mindful that elemental eaters will deal with that, but we can also do okay damage with our knives there. But yeah, a big component is finding that support drone if you can. It's going to drop from any type of boss, so you can find it, again, blue, green, purple, you name it. Now, for our specializations, there's a few great ones. Specializations, like now with caffeine, work really well on anyone because this allows you to use your Repkit to get your action skill back. However, if you're not using the triple bypass, it may be better to go with something a little bit different, like adding in I am a gun, which will give you 50% of your damage increases. Like if you get a gun damage increase, it gives you 50% bonuses. I'll take half of that, so it add like 25% to your action skill damage. So this is really great because this is going to boost your damage quite a bit. On top of that, also with things like really this, which will give you upwards of a 50% bonus to gun damage. Again, also applying to our action skill. And if we take the Bare Arms, melee damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. So we get 50% of those applied to our melee. This gives us 50% bonus damage, and then this also applies it to our action skill. And a Honed Mind will give our action skill a critical hit chance and damage critical hit chance damage is increased by 50% as well. So that's big boost to our critical hit chance and damage. You do not need this many points. You only really need to get the Daredevil one maxed out here to get it down to 20, and you're going to have all 3 of these here, and then put a few more points into the runner there for the bear arms, and you can be good with just that. Now, combat for this is pretty funny. We're going to activate our support drone there. We're then going to activate our action skill, and then we're going to activate our heal here, which is then going to give us that massive boost to the damage. And you see there, we just do a couple hits, and then the boss's health bar is absolutely annihilated. And this is in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, by the way. That healing, you can see it. You have to kind of manage this by looking to the bottom right-hand or left-hand side to see that you do have those 10 stacks. But you see there, we get some pretty funny goblin run whenever we get that movement speed boost. And the nice thing is we really are focused on sustaining ourselves too. So yeah, you go in there, you activate your heal. It does that big Nova, and the Nova actually end up one-shotting the boss on Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. That was insane. So yeah, crazy. This may end up getting patched. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But pretty crazy interaction, fun. Someone messaged me and told me about this crazy interaction between those 2 skills. So you really don't matter too much unless you got Permalast, which you can see now has a double damage chance at 150%. I'm not sure what really is causing that to happen. It's only supposed to be the 30% there, but I do believe it's interaction between the skill tree here, giving us that critical hit chance or something that's procking that up. But yeah, pretty crazy interaction here with the Alter Cabron. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed. I hope you have a great day. We'll catch y'all in the next one.